Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to discuss about India's State of Forest Report, that is ISFR 2021, which has been released recently and it is published by Forest Survey of India, as you can see here, which is under Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, and it's a biennial report, which means it is published after every 2 years. So you have to remember this fact. Now let us see what are the key findings of this survey. So let's see. So India, first of all, it's one of the very few countries which do this forest and tree cover assessment, right? And it is basically done in a 2-year cycle, as I've told you. So it's a biennial report of the Forest Survey of India, and it is known as ISFR, which is India State of Forest Report. Now let us discuss some history about it. So the first report, it came in 1987. So all of these facts you have to remember for prelims. Okay, so first such report came out in 1987, and since then a total of 16 reports have been published, which means this one, ISFR 2021, is the 17th report. Okay, and for the matter of this report, FSI, that is the Forest Survey of India, have expanded their scope, right? So they now do the forest fire monitoring also. E-Green Watch. E-Green Watch is a, you can say, online portal. It's a web portal where they track all of the forest and tree cover assessment, and plus they use very high resolution mapping. So basically FSI have expanded their scope to cover all of these things. So this 17th IFSR 2021 or ISFR 2021, it provides the assessment both at the country as well as at the state level. So if there is a question regarding which sensor or which series of satellites are used by the Forest Survey of India to assess this forest cover and tree cover, then this satellite, you can see here, IRS Resource Sat series. So this series of satellites has been used by the Forest Survey of India, and the sensor which is used, which it is indigenous, and it is the LIS 3 sensor of this satellite series. And using this series, they have collected the data for the period 2019 to 2020. So basically, the 17th ISFR 2021 covers the data for which period? 2019 to 2020. Okay. And there is another thing, forest fire monitoring. So I told you there has been an addition in what the Forest Survey of India covers. It has expanded its scope. So it now also covers the forest fire monitoring. So how does it monitor the forest fires in the forest? So what is used is the MODIS sensor. So you can see it here, and it is basically this MODIS sensor. It is on board the Aqua and Terra satellites of NASA and SNPP. So you don't have to remember all these facts. Just remember MODIS sensor on board Aqua and Terra satellite. Let's move forward. So you can see this forest cover over here. So this map, it depicts the gains and losses in the forest cover. So that means how much increase or how much decrease. So remember, it is not about which state has the maximum forest cover. It is about the gains. Which state has the maximum increase in forest cover. Okay, since 2019. So if we see the top 5 states in the gains and losses, so you have to remember these, at least first 3. So Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Orissa, they are the states which have gained the most in terms of the forest cover. And if we talk about the northeastern states, the 5 northeastern states are Arunachal Pradesh, Manipur, Nagaland, Mizoram and Meghalaya. So these 5 states, they have the maximum loss of the forest cover since 2019. So remember, this is about the gains and losses, not the total percentage of the area of forest cover. Okay. So what are the key findings of ISFR 2021? So ISFR 2021 has found that the forest and the tree cover in our country has increased. So we don't have to remember the exact figure, but additional cover, so whatever the figure was, additionally 1540 kilometers square have increased. Okay, and one fact that we have to remember, that 17 states or UTs in our country, they cover 33% of geographical area under forest cover. So you can see it here, 17 states have 33% of the area under forest cover. Again, India's forest cover has increased from 21.67% in 2019, and now 2021 it is 21.71%. So you can see the increase from 67 to 71, right? That's 21.67 to 21.71%. So the total tree cover, it has also increased by 721 kilometers square, right? Now, obviously, forest cover is different from the tree cover. So what is covered in the tree cover? So tree cover is defined as all the tree patches of size less than 1 hectare. So we know 1 hectare, that's equals to 10 to the power 4 meter squares, right? So all the tree patches which has a size of less than 1 hectare and which occur outside the recorded forest area. Recorded forest area is basically the forest area which is in the government records, right? And therefore, tree cover covers all the trees in the formations, including the scattered trees. So tree cover is different from the forest cover. What comes under the tree cover? All the tree patches whose area is less than 1 hectare and they occur outside the record, the government records or the recorded forest area. Now, if we see, I told you the maximum gain or the highest increase in forest cover, which are the 3 states, Telangana, Andhra Pradesh and Orissa, top 3, and the 5 states in Northeast, we have seen they have shown loss in the forest cover. So although the states in Northeast, they even now they have the maximum forest cover in the whole of the country, but they have shown loss in the forest cover, which will come under one of the concerns. So we'll see that. Apart from that, if we talk about mangroves, then they have increased. They have shown increase of 17 kilometers square. Then forest prone to fires. We know that climate change is occurring and temperatures are rising. So because of that fact, the forests are now more prone to fires, which is covered in this survey. So we'll cover this again in the forest prone to fires part, that by 2030 it is estimated that 45 to 64% of forest in India, they will experience the effects of climate change and rising temperatures. And Ladakh will be the most affected. What else do we find in ISFR 2021? It says that the total carbon stock in the country, it is estimated at 7,204 million tons, which is again an increase by approximately 80 million tons. So we just have to remember that total carbon stock of the country has increased by 80 million tons since 2019. So let's talk about the total carbon stock. So it is basically the carbon, the amount of carbon that has been sequestered from the atmosphere and is now stored within the forest ecosystem. So we know that when we burn any fossil fuel like say wood or coal, then a lot of carbon is emitted in the atmosphere, right? And that carbon ultimately increases the global warming, rising temperatures. So when we plant more trees, plants are a source of storage of carbon. So more the number of trees or plants, more carbon is stored in the plants or trees. So carbon sequestration is nothing but that, and carbon stock is nothing but the amount of carbon that is stored in the plants or the forest or the trees, or that is sequestered from the atmosphere and which is now stored within the forest ecosystem. Where it is stored? Mainly within the living biomass and the soil. So here we come to a term you can see here soil organic carbon. So among the total carbon stock in the country, the maximum percentage of the carbon stock is found in soil. So soil organic carbon, it represents the largest pool of the carbon which is stocked in the forest. So you have to remember that total carbon stock may say soil organic carbon has the maximum percentage. It contributes 56% to the total forest carbon stock of the country. And then another key finding is that bamboo forests again have grown. Now we don't have to remember the number. You can approximately remember, say, 13,000 million culms. Culms is nothing but the stems. So the monocotyledon stem are known as culms. So bamboo is a monocotyledon stem. So therefore it is measured in culms. So bamboo forests, they have grown from approximately 13,000 million culms to 54,000, okay, 53,000 approximately. So 53,000 million culms in 2021. Let's move forward. Now, I told you that we learned about the states which have the maximum gain or the maximum loss. Now, what about the states which have the highest forest cover or the forest area? So first of all, what is the difference between forest area and forest cover? So let's see at the bottom of the slide. The term forest area is nothing but the legal status of the land as per the government records. So all the area which is in the government records is coming under forest area, whereas if we talk about the forest cover just indicates the presence of trees over any land, which means it does not necessarily have to be in the government records. Okay, so that is the difference between forest area and forest cover. So if we talk about the survey, forest cover, in terms of the forest cover, in terms of the forest area, that means area-wise, Madhya Pradesh has the largest forest cover in the country, which means in the government records, Madhya Pradesh has the largest forest cover, which is followed by Arunachal Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Odisha and Maharashtra. So you can just learn two of them, say Madhya Pradesh and Arunachal Pradesh. So first two or maybe first three, including Chhattisgarh. And if we talk about the forest cover, that means it indicates the presence of trees over any land, and that land does not necessarily have to be in the government records. Right, so forest cover, in terms of the forest cover, the percentage of total geographical area, top 5 states are Mizoram, Arunachal Pradesh, Meghalaya, Manipur and Nagaland. So you can see all of these are the northeastern states. So in terms of the forest cover, again, northeastern states have the highest percentage of the total geographical area. So that means of the total area of the state, maximum forest cover is found in the northeastern states. And ranking it, we can say Mizoram is coming at the first number, then Arunachal Pradesh, then Meghalaya, Manipur and Nagaland. But if we talk about the losses, then in the losses also they are ranking high. That means the northeastern states are basically losing their forest, which is a cause of concern for us. So what are the cause of concerns for us? So in the ISFR 2021, so we have seen the data. What are the concerns? First of all, the decline in natural forest. So how the natural forests are declining, we'll discuss it, and how the northeastern forest cover is declining. Why is the northeastern forest cover declining? So we have seen the northeastern states, they have shown the greatest loss in the forest cover. So why is it that? So let's discuss it. So first of all, if you remember, the first concern is the decline in natural forest. So what kind of forest are growing? So see, there are three categories of the forest which is generally surveyed by the Forest Survey of India. So how are they classified? It is classified as very dense forest, moderately dense forest, and the open forest. Now, there may be a prelims question on the categories of forest. So you can remember, if the canopy density is greater than 70%, then it is a very dense forest. If the canopy density is between 40 to 70%, then it's a moderately dense forest. And if the canopy density is between 10 to 40%, then it's an open forest. So the question comes, what is canopy density? So canopy density is nothing but the proportion of area. So see here, it is the proportion of area in the field or ground that is covered by the crown of trees. So suppose we have a tree here, right? And we know this is the crown of the tree. So if we see on the ground, this much area is covered by the trunk of the tree. But if we see the canopy, so if we project the canopy of the tree, right, on the ground, then this total area is the canopy density. Okay, it's the proportion of the area that is covered by the crown of the trees is known as the canopy density. And based on the canopy density, we can categorize the forest into very dense, moderately dense, and open forest. Also, the scrubs, they have a canopy density of less than 10%. So you have to remember these facts for the prelims. Okay, so now we were talking about the cause of concern, that what kind of forests are growing. So according to the survey report, very dense forests, they are increasing, which is a good sign. But the forests which are increasing are generally the protected and the reserved forest. So even if the very dense forests are increasing, they are not the natural forest. What they are the protected and the reserved forest. And they are conserved because of the active conservation efforts of the environmentalists. Okay. And then if we talk about the moderately dense forest or natural forest, then they are decreasing. So now you can see the natural forests are basically the moderately dense forest, and these forests are decreasing, which is a cause of concern. And the open forest areas also, they are increasing, which means what? That the natural forests which were moderately dense are now being converted to the open forest areas which are less dense. That means natural forests are degrading to less dense open forest, which is a cause of concern, because natural forests, they have more biodiversity, right? And they have more carbon stock as compared to plantations or less dense open forest. Also, the scrub area is increasing, which is indicating that the whole forest degradation is taking place in those areas. So let's see, what were the categories? Very dense forest, they are increasing, which is a good sign, but the very dense forests are basically the protected and the reserve forest only, which are increasing. Then moderately dense forests, which are known as the natural forest, they are decreasing, which is a cause of concern. Now open forest, they are again increasing. So obviously when the moderately dense forests are decreasing, that means they are converting into the open, less dense open forest. And scrubs are also increasing, which means whole of these forests are ultimately degrading into the scrub land, which is again a cause of concern. Now, the second cause of concern was why there is a decline in the Northeastern States, why the forest cover and the tree cover is declining. So, that is, if we talk about the report, then it has attributed the decline to a number of factors such as natural calamities. So we know Brahmaputra, there are a lot of floods in Brahmaputra. So particularly landslides and heavy rains in that area is leading to the decline of the forest cover, as well as the anthropogenic activities, that is the man-made activities, such as we are using shifting agriculture there. Okay, so humans, they practice shifting agriculture there. I hope everyone is aware of the shifting agriculture. You use one land for a particular crop, then you go to the another area, then you again burn the trees there, use it for agriculture, then you move on to the next area, and then you remove the trees in the next area and you practice agriculture, then you move on to the next area. So that is known as the shifting agriculture. So because humans practice shifting agriculture, so because of that, the forests are we are degrading the forest. Also, there are developmental activities, so we make bridges and all, so all the development activities, that's a pressure on the forest. And felling of trees by humans, again. So these are some of the factors which has been attributed to the decline in northeastern states forest cover. So what impact will it have? So as I told you, forests, they are great repositories of biodiversity. So more forest means more biodiversity. So if forests are degraded, then biodiversity will be affected. That means not many species will be there. Biodiversity is what? So suppose we have one field where there is only one kind of plant, right? That is only wheat. And then we have one field in which we have rows of plants of, say, one is rice, one is lentils. So which is more biodiverse, A or B? Obviously A, that has rice, lentils in it plus wheat in it, rather than only the wheat. So biodiversity is in terms of species, right? So suppose we have one forest in which there are a lot of trees and therefore we have a lot of biodiversity. We have worms, we have animals, we have birds, and then there is another one less dense open forest in which the density of the trees is very less and therefore not many animals will live there. So it will have less biodiversity. So northeastern states, if there is a loss in forest cover, obviously there is a loss in biodiversity, and it will also increase the impact of landslides. So earlier, if there were, forests, they will stop the impact of a landslide. But now, if there are no forests to protect, then the landslides impact will increase. And also it will impact the water catchment area and degradation of the water resources will occur. Now, why is one of the another factor why northeastern states is losing the forest cover is because it has a different ownership pattern. So in most of the states, the forests are managed by the forest department and the state governments. But if we talk about the northeastern states, then the forests are owned by the community. So there is community ownership and there is protected tribal land. So therefore conservation activities become challenging. So that is another reason why the forests are declining in the northeastern states. So now let's see what else the report cover. So for the first time, so obviously if it is the first time, you have to remember this fact. So first time, the forest cover is assessed in the tiger reserves, tiger corridors, and the Gir forest, which houses the Asiatic lion. So for the first time, the report is covering this. So you have to remember this, right? And again, if we talk about the tiger corridors, then the forest cover has increased. But if we talk about the tiger reserves, then the area has decreased. So tiger corridor is nothing but a passage for the movement of the tigers. So suppose there are some tigers here, some tigers here, and there was no passage earlier for the safe movement of the tigers. So now we made a passage. So that passage is known as the tiger corridor. And tiger reserves are basically the protected areas for the tigers. So if we talk about tiger corridors, forest cover has increased, but in tiger reserves, the forest cover has decreased. Now, there may be a question about which tiger reserves have shown an increase in forest cover. So you have to remember these three. Buksa Tiger Reserve, which is in West Bengal, Annamalai Tiger Reserve, which is in Tamil Nadu, and Indravati Reserve, which is in Chhattisgarh. They have shown an increase in forest cover. So if we see the highest gain or increase, then it's Buksa, Annamalai, and Indravati Reserve. And if we see the highest losses, then it is found in Kaval Tiger Reserve, Telangana, Bhadra Tiger Reserve, which is in Karnataka, and the famous one, which is the Sundarbans in West Bengal. And if we talk about the percentage, then which tiger reserve has the highest forest cover? Then Pake Tiger Reserve in Arunachal Pradesh has the highest forest cover, which is approximately 97%. Apart from that, a new initiative of Forest Survey of India in collaboration with the Space Application Center ISRO Ahmedabad, they have calculated the above ground biomass by using what? By using the synthetic aperture radar SAR. So if there is a question, is it a new initiative? Yes. Or what is calculated? Above ground biomass is calculated using what? Using SAR, that is the synthetic aperture radar technology. Now, what is above ground biomass? So see the bottom of this slide. Above ground biomass is basically a pool of all the living vegetation which is above the soil, which includes stems, stumps, branches, bark, seeds, and foliage. So on the contrary, if we see below ground biomass, it will be the carbon pool which consists of biomass which is within the live roots. Okay, so you can see the difference between the above ground biomass and the below ground biomass, and for the first time FSI has documented a separate chapter on the above ground biomass. Similarly, FSI in collaboration with BITS Pilani, which is in Goa, has performed a study based on mapping of climate change hotspots in the Indian forest. So we have discussed, I think, climate change hotspots. We discussed that Ladakh will be the most affected. And this mapping of climate change hotspots in Indian forest, it is done for 3 future time periods. So you have to remember it for 2030, 2050 and 2085. Okay. Now, what impact will the climate change have? So we have already discussed it that by 2030, 45 to 64% of forest in India will experience the effects of climate change and the rising temperatures, that is global warming, and therefore more forest fires. So all of the forest in all of the states will be highly vulnerable climate hotspots except for 4 states, which is given in the survey report, which is Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura and Nagaland. And we also talked that Ladakh will be the most affected one, right? And India's forest, they are also showing shifting trends of vegetation. So one instance is given that Sikkim has shown a shift in its vegetation pattern for 124 endemic species. So endemic species are those species which are localized in that area, right? So which are found only in that area. So Sikkim has shown a shift in its vegetation pattern for 124 endemic species. So this has been found. Apart from that, fire hotspots, they have been detected by SNPPVIRS sensor, and it has shown that forest fires have increased in 2021. So earlier there were 1.2 lakh forest fires, now they have increased to 3.4. And if we talk about the highest number of fires, then the highest number of fires were detected in Orissa, Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh. So this is nothing but again that which states will be witnessing highest temperature increase, which will be witnessing the least temperature, which will have the highest increase in rainfall, and which will have the least increase in rainfall or sometimes even decline in rainfall. So you can go through this paragraph and learn about the states which are witnessing highest and least temperature increases. So how comprehensive a picture does the survey present? So we will say it is not comprehensive. Why? We have concerns because under the forest cover, even the plantations are included. So plantation is basically monoculture. That means only one variety of the crop is cultivated in the field, right? So that is a plantation. So suppose if only coffee is cultivated, that will be a coffee plantation. If only coconuts are planted, then it will be a coconut plantation and so on. So these plantations are also covered under the forest cover. And we know that forests obviously have a lot of biodiversity. So there are hundreds of species of trees and plants and animals, that is fauna, in the forest. But if we talk about the plantation has only one species of tree. So how can it be better than the forest, right? So does the survey present the picture comprehensively? Then the answer is no, because plantations are also included. And obviously they are no substitute for the natural forest, because forests, they provide us critical ecological services, right? And the forest, they have a larger carbon sink and they harbor more biodiversity. They also aid in pollination, and there are also sources of water bodies in the natural forest. And if we talk about plantations, then they may have some economic value in the market, but they have limited utility as carbon sinks, and there is low biodiversity. And in every aspect, plantation is of less value than a natural forest. And if there is a question that when the plantations are covered, have been covered under forest, then in 2017, the Food and Agricultural Organization FAO, they have slotted all the plantations except, so you have to remember which is not included, except the oil palm trees, or every other plantation comes under the definition of forest. So who have declared it? FAO. When in 2017. Does all the plantations are covered under forest? No, all the plantations are covered except for one, which is the oil palm tree, which does not come under the definition of forest. Okay. So these are some of the definitions. We discussed crown area. It is basically the area of horizontal projection of a tree crown on the ground. Then tiger corridors also we discussed, stretch of land which is linking the tiger habitats, allowing the movement of tigers, prey and other wildlife. If there is no tiger corridor, then tiger habitat can become fragmented and tiger populations can be isolated, which can lead to localized extinction. So tiger corridors are again very important. Tiger reserves, they are protected areas which are statutorily, that means by law, designated for the conservation of tigers, right? And then there is one culturable non-forest area. So you can see here non-forest means it will not come under the definition of the recorded forest areas, right? But it is culturable. That means it will have some trees and forest, right? So it is the net geographical area which lies outside the recorded forest and the forest cover, but it can support tree vegetation. So that is the culturable non-forest area. So that is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for listening to me. And please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel to stay connected. And I'll try to be regular from now on. So if you listen to the video, I'll try to give more content to you. And please try to write in the comment sections below what else do you want me to cover. So that's it for today, guys. Thank you so much for listening. Have a very good day. Bye.